Welcome to Live Life Well with me, Nikki. Today's guest is not only a colleague, but a really good friend, one that has been with me through probably the most challenging time in our lives during lockdown, where not only did we support each other in a friendship, but also in business and aspiring to help people to recover from things that we have really found challenging in our own lives and our own practices. So very excited to introduce Jolene, my biokineticist buddy here, and my partner at Virtual Wellness.
Thank you for having me, Nikki.
So, Joe, I didn't really have a clear direction in what I wanted to chat to you about today. But I think what's really, really important is to talk about, how we met and how the vision for like virtual wellness was born and what our plan is for it.
Absolutely, and I think I've actually kept how we met quite close to my heart until now. And I think everyone's got a story, and yeah, my story is that I went through a phase just before lockdown where I was drinking too much. It was negatively affecting my life, impacting it, and I needed help. I sought out help and came across you, and we started going through our journey together, dealing with my process, and um, somehow through that, I think we started talking business, and business sort of, we needed to come to a solution of whether we were going to continue in our professional capacity as client, patient, or patient practitioner, or go on as business partners. We obviously chose the latter, which leads us to where we are here, but eternally grateful to your role that you've played in my journey, my personal journey towards recovery. And through that, we obviously founded Virtual Wellness.
So I do remember how we started talking about it, and that was like starting to see the link between our physical ailments and like the mental health component and the role that it played. And that's kind of I think what started us talking about the connection between the work that you do and the work that I do.
Absolutely, and I think my personal journey, which has led us to here, I was always looking as a biokineticist at the physical rehab of someone, and have suffered with various ailments and pains throughout my life. Grew up with a chronically ill mother, which I now realize affected me quite a lot. Um, and I've just hit a blank. Oh gosh. So yeah, I grew up with a chronically ill mom, and having had my own ailments myself, didn't quite put the link together in that my poor mental health at the time was as a result of poor physical capacity. I get my self worth from my ability to be physically strong and able, and had lost a lot of that, and grew up watching a mother who had lost her ability to move, to function, to work, and who was essentially disabled through her chronic autoimmune disease and things. Um, and through that, I've realized that you can't not work on mental health. To get a physical result, and a physical outcome in terms of rehabilitation, you need to be addressing the mental health aspect. And I think, through that, as a businesswoman, decided that I needed more insights and input in mental health, and that's where you came in. So
What are the physical ailments that you were struggling with, just to kind of give some insights about the journey you've been on?
So grew up always very sporty. I was a typical tomboy at school. Played all the sports, but always battled with my knees, shin splints, hip pain, and back then there weren't really too many bios around. I would get sent to the odd physio here and there, but largely left to your own devices. And in my 20s, I was deadlifting. I remember it very clearly. It was too heavy for me. I went for one more rep, slipped a disc, um, and that spiraled into what eventually became, which was December last year, a disc replacement of L4 or 5. Um, so yeah, through my 20s and most of my 30s, it was mostly my back pain, and then trying to practice um, with back pain, train with back pain, but at the same time, because I wasn't working enough on my mental health, I was pushing through. I was doing things that weren't benefiting me, they were doing more harm. And so I was in this chronic self destructive cycle. And that led to what I believe a pain depression cycle. Got locked into that chronic cycle. And furthermore, that linked into a physical pain fear cycle where I became scared to do certain movements. And it's been a journey. I can't say I'm anywhere close to the end, but just that journey of realizing that pain has such an effect on your mental state. And if we can't not addressing our mental state, we cannot physically rehabilitate someone to get out of pain unless they're working on the mental side of things.
I mean, I think that that is such an insight for a professional to have because, what you're trained to do is to like fix the physical element. And I always laugh when I fall off a horse and I send you a video just for a laugh. Your first thing you send me like screenshots of how I've landed and ask me how my back is, and like for me, that is so typical of how, you're just geared to help people in that way. But already with the clients you and I have worked with together, it's something manifests physically and then it impacts their life on an emotional level. So, either they are completely introverted and can't function in their lives or are quite angry and attacking at everyone and like destructive. They wanting to kind of tear their whole lives apart. And if you're only like dealing with one or the other element, we're not really helping this person to live their best possible life. And they do find themselves in that conundrum, that like cycle of, they're just going round and round and not actually being able to move forward.
Absolutely, and that's actually become a bit of a, I don't want to say prerequisite, but it's definitely a preference of mine, to work with people who are working with a counselor, a coach, or on their mental health. One, because I get a better result with them physically, and two, obviously, we want long-lasting results. And I've just realized, I think, specifically with my own journey, seeing my mom, and her journey, and having worked with you, if people aren't working on their mental health, we actually can't get a physical release, especially when it comes to people with chronic pain. Obviously, my focus is normally around the back, by default, I suppose, and burnout patients.
So tell me how you get to working with a burnout client.
Sure. Well, burnouts, I think the word gets thrown around quite a lot, especially at the moment. It's becoming a bit of a trend, trendy word, as such. But burnouts in itself is actually very serious. There are 5 stages before reaching burnout, and you and I have done, sort of corporate wellness talks on this topic. Um, but burnouts essentially is the body shuts down. The hormones stop working, your adrenal glands are fatigued, so your body stops producing enough adrenaline. So the body is literally functioning off zero, if not negative zero, if you can even get there. And the way we get to burnout is normally work stress and not managing work stress. But the physical response to burnout is often weight loss, severe drastic weight loss. Hair loss can be, you were telling me, hair loss. The symptoms are vast. But physically, we can rehabilitate the nerves, like from a neuromuscular perspective. But unless the signal which comes from the brain is still stimulating the nerves in the same reaction, the same pathways, it's going to lead to the same outcome. So we can rehabilitate them physically in the short term, absolutely. But if that signal from the brain, and that's the mental health work, if we're not rewiring the nervous system from the traditional old school thought patterns and processes, that effect on the physical nerve is going to be the same because there's too much stimulation from excessive stress. And so that's specifically with burnouts. It's an absolute, I will not work with them unless they're working on their mental health because it's not going to get this.
Pointless, for sure. And I think that that's kind of was our direction into corporate wellness for this exact reason, because especially now after COVID, people are already in like pre-burnout stages, and now they're having to go back into work, and like the expectations are huge on people, and they're really kind of quite depleted. And so I think that's probably our biggest audience on how to intervene at that point, and knowing that we can't just intervene in one particular space, it has to be across the board.
Absolutely. And I think, the patients that I am currently getting are sort of the individuals who are taking it on themselves to really try and get better, or they've reached a point at which they cannot continue the way they're going, otherwise they're going to end up in hospital. But ultimately, I think you and I would both like to reach a larger audience and help organizations really implement positive change, such that we don't have these patients coming to us as individuals, that the organization has looked at, hang on, what are our employees? How was their mental health? How's their physical health? And is their mental and physical health sort of conflicting?
Sure. And a bit more than like sometimes what the EAP organizations are actually offering, and not because they don't have a desire, but because they're also limited in whatever, the corporate entity has assigned them to. And like we want to be able to offer it to them on a much easier and larger scale to really like help the people, because every organization is made up of people. It's not the building, it's the people inside the building. And right now, the people inside the building are really struggling.
Yeah. And that's something that you've actually taught me, is that, we can have a certain approach for an individual, but people are fluid, organizations are fluid, you've got to look at the individual as they are. And that's, where traditionally I would go and fix the body, good, tick, done. Now, hang on, I fixed the body, but we're still not getting the results. What's happening here? And it's, we start addressing the mental space. And as you say, the corporates might be addressing it as a whole, but our vision was more to give each individual an individualized program or access to a custom program, so they get to know themselves better, they have access to practitioners where they need to, and access to the right type of program and course that applies to them. So yeah, it's really exciting.
For sure. I mean, the workshops that we have run, like I don't know what it was like for you, but it opened my eyes to see how many people are actually struggling and how they're struggling, and not having a place to even speak up about it. I mean, the part that I think really fascinated me was, that water cooler talk. You don't even have that. People that are working from home still, or having irregular times at the office, don't even have their friend or their colleague at work to kind of offload to. And you certainly don't want to be offloading to your family all the time, who are also carrying their own stress. Like that was quite an eye opener for me. I don't know what it was like for you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, most of it was an eye opener, having been self-employed most of my life. So seeing the sort of cultures that are attached to certain corporates, and sort of unhealthy habits that sort of teams develop within teams, and sort of if people influence each other. And so if an organization isn't aware of how the team is influencing each other, or what the culture is within an organization, it's going to be very difficult to implement the change. So the work we want to do is big, but really exciting at the same time.
I always laugh when we're trying to come up with a plan, and you're like, okay, just record something that's in relation to this pain. And I'm like, I wish mental health was kind of like that, where I could compartmentalize and say, this is the exercise you need to do for this. But everything is so fluid and blends into each other that it's next to impossible to actually do these kind of like a one size fits all approach. And I think that that's often how it lands up being with these kind of corporate support programs, that like you can't deal with each individual. And I think that that's really our vision, to be able to help each individual in the way that they need it, in a way that's not just kind of generalized.
Absolutely, and we can create generic programs. I mean, that can be done, but that's a little bit less than our vision, which is to ultimately help as many people as we can. Um, so yeah, I suppose the concept is for virtual wellness that we get people in touch with themselves firstly, in touch with the program, and then in touch with the practitioner if they need to.
For sure.
Because you always need, as much as we can have an app or a tool, at the end of the day, that's just a tool to assist someone. And we always need an escalation point for them to be able to speak to a real human, because as you know, humans need this interaction. And pre, post, during COVID, our boundaries have all been blurred, especially with people working from home. And so the switch offs are not as easy as, okay, well, I'm leaving the office now, bye guys. There's that blurredness between, is the lounge the office, the spare rooms now the office, or, and it's people aren't able to switch off as easily as they used to. So burnout is becoming a lot more prevalent. And if people aren't already in burnout, they're at least approaching it. And that's, we need to try and prevent people from reaching burnout.
Because they don't understand how long it actually takes to come back from burnout when your body is really at that completely depleted point. It's not like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this for a couple of weeks and then I'm back in. I know you've had a client that took how long to come back?
It's taken him 2.5 years.
Sure.
He's now working again, which we say he's not by no means out of burnout. I don't think you ever do get out of burnout. I think it's a stored trauma and neurological response that needs to be addressed and changed. But I would say for most people, it's at least 2 years, a 2 year journey to, because the body, the system, physiologically, you shut down. So we have to rebuild the body and get all those hormones firing, and get the adrenals working. And to overcome burnout, it's not just, okay, I'm just going to rest. You've got to work on rewiring the body and the system, both mentally, physically, hormonally, and that's where you need a team of people. And that's where I'm so grateful to you and the way we go, wherever we end up. And that I know that I need a mental health practitioner to assist my patients on their road to recovery.
You shared your personal experience, and like, the story that comes to mind is that going through this, like really building a business and being completely like stressed out and like running on empty and running on fumes, and really like not having the energy or the inclination to exercise at the time, and the role that you played for me, to get me to run, which is not my favorite activity, and even like swimming. I mean, if people had to see how we actually swam, like Jolene actually towed me. Like I held onto her leg and she swam for a while because I was struggling. But I suppose that that's like the teamwork that we need, because you just can't actually do it. I couldn't do it for myself, and I needed that encouragement and that push. And like people are just people. Everybody needs that.
No, absolutely, and it's also that accountability system. Having a team behind you who are in your corner and who really do want the best for you, but also that you're accountable to. Because it's all very well for us to say this is what's going to help get you better. Give them the plan, but if they're not accountable to a human specifically, um, generally people don't do it. And so having that accountability and also just knowing that there's always someone there for them to assist, I think that leads to huge patient success.
For sure. And also like coming to that understanding that you might feel like you've got some charge in your battery now, so you want to like go, and then you like it runs out so quickly because it's still in that like yellow energy saving mode. And it's quite hard to tell people that they still have to go slowly and to minimize. And I know we've had that with a couple of clients where we have to say like slow down.
Yes.
Like you might be feeling good right now, but that doesn't mean that like next week is going to be the same. And you need that. You need that team of people around you to remind you to just like hang on, time takes time.
And a big phrase or whatever, something I've picked up during lockdown was to use pockets of energy, specifically when it comes to people who are under high stress or burnout, or actually just all of us, is we've got limited energy at the moment. I think the stress is huge for most people. There's financial strain, the world is going crazy, there's just stress, bombardment. Also, most of what we're doing is taking away from us. Work, a lot of people, that drains them, it takes away from. I'm blessed that my work feeds me. But most people, it's taking away from family, takes away from you. That's so much as taking away from us. So I try and sort of, I don't want to say teach people, but encourage people to use pockets of energy. Is we've got certain periods throughout the day where we've got better energy. I know yours is morning, first thing in the morning. So best time for you to train is in the morning. Fantastic. That's your pocket of energy. But if you're in burnout, what are you doing to refill your cup? You've now taken out of your energy. What are we doing to replace? Is it a good nutritious meal? I'm a big fan of power naps, things to just replace the energy, just a little battery recharge, because our batteries run lower throughout the day. So you've got energy, let's use it, but let's not use all of it. So let's use a little bit and replace, top it up. And it's those sort of pockets of energy and trying to teach those people, because especially a lot of burnout patients are type A's and or perfectionists. It's that constant drive to go, which is great, because makes them generally quite successful people. But we have limited resources. All of us have limited resources, so it's just about repackaging and replacing, I suppose.
And now, as it stands, where are you with the pain in your back, and how are you managing it? And like, what's your recovery journey like?
So it's good. It has its moments. I haven't really gone there yet, but I'm potentially going to go see a rheumatologist at some point, just to look at the inflammatory source of the pain. But largely, I'm managing it through diets. I've changed the way I train, much to my disappointment. I've learned that running is probably not the best thing for me. Just the impact
See, I know things.
You knew we weren't supposed to be running back then. And yeah, I just sort of had to, and it's still a journey. I still overdo it. I still go do too much, and then I feel the pain the next day. But the severity of the pain is largely under control, thanks to surgery, I think, mainly. But yeah, it's just changing my mindset around why I'm training, and that's the work I've done with you. Is it's not necessarily about the way I look. Yes, it is. There's always that component. I'm in the fitness profession. I should look good generally, but it's, for me, it's become a lot more about how I feel. Is this movement benefiting my body? If so, how is it? And just becoming a bit more mindful when I'm training, and I'm bringing that into the work that I'm doing with my clients, and actually responding really well. As in, I have a huge passion for anatomy. So before I'd be like, that's your tricep, this is this, it's a long head of your tricep. Everyone has a joke and or a laugh. But now it's about, that's the long head of your tricep, but focus on it while you're doing an overhead tricep extension and put the energy into that muscle, and you actually get a better result. So you'd rather do less, but go for quality as opposed to quantity. And this is obviously specifically with the burnout and the standard client, who's out of touch with their bodies, out of touch with their minds, out of touch with their world normally. So just bringing them into that mindful space is really helping.
I mean, I listen to you, and I think it's so important that we do share with our clients that we struggle as much as they do. It's not like this is an easy walk in the park, that we also push ourselves too hard and we don't listen to our bodies, and sometimes we don't feel good about our bodies, and that it's not about not ever having a struggle, but rather about what we do about it, and like actually implementing the tools that we're asking them to do the same with, and knowing that they do actually work. Like for me, that's where it's like super powerful. I'm not just telling you something, I'm actually doing it myself.
Yeah, and you've lived it. And I think that's where, I think personal, excuse me, personal experience really helps. My back pain, by default, just seem to attract back pain patients. And, I think my mom's experience with autoimmune disease and being, chronically ill, I now attract the chronically ill patient or the autoimmune patient. And, I can't say they're easy patients, but they are by all means worth it. And as you say, when you open up to people, there was actually a podcast I listened to during lockdown, in that I think it's 70% of medical practitioners are on or have been on a form of antidepressant or anti-anxiety. So medical practitioners are battling.
For sure.
And there's compassion fatigue at the moment. And, I myself have been in the pain depression cycle. I've been in a dark depression. Currently battling with anxiety, and it's the more you speak about these things with people and to people, the more they seem to open up about it, and realize that there are ways to overcome it that don't necessarily mean taking a quick pill. Sometimes you just need to meditate every day, and find something that fills your cup. Sometimes it's more severe than that, obviously.
Sure. No problems. Thanks, Steve. We just can't escape.
Beautiful stuff, like
It's nice, eh?
it's yeah, very, very real, very real.
So I think that if I really want to consolidate the work that you and I are talking about, it's that offering of holistic wellness, where we do encourage clients to really utilize every resource that they actually have in order to be able to, like, breath work or meditation, so that we don't only rely on the medical stuff, although it's a really helpful like resource, but that we can actually allow our bodies to heal itself to a large extent if we actually pay attention. And like, I'm super grateful that I get to do this with you, and that our vision is so aligned, even though it's obviously taken a lot longer than we'd hoped because the world isn't quite as aligned with us as yet. I do believe that our vision to help people on the scale that we want to is going to be absolutely like massive, and I'm super excited about it, Joe.
Absolutely, me too. And yeah, I really, really hope we can touch the lives of many people to come, and that they can change their relationship with themselves. In the same way you helped me change the relationship with myself, I hope that we can affect that on millions and millions of people down the line.
So, I mean, I think about the type of organization that we are focused on supporting is that we live in a new world now, and we're looking for the progressive organization that is really focused on the well-being of their employees, knowing that that's the success of their business, actually. And not just about ticking a box, okay, we've got some support program for you, you get 6 sessions, or you can make this amount of calls, but not actually caring about the person. Because this person doesn't even know what they need. When a client comes to see you and they say they've got back pain, they don't know that they've actually got financial stress and their marriage isn't in a great spot. And, that's all adding to the back pain that they're experiencing because it's manifesting physically. So we're looking for and like, this is the way forward. These are people that care about people, that are not just like wanting to get the most that they can from this employee until they drop dead. It's about sustainability. I don't know how you feel about that, and if there's anything else that you think about the type of perfect client that we're looking for.
Yeah, I would say definitely someone who's progressive, someone who's open to change. I think most importantly, I remember my first session with you said, disclaimer, you might lose some friends, and that's because you change. So someone who's progressive, or an organization who's progressive, that they might not necessarily know what the problem is, but they know that they need to assist their staff, not only on their personal journey, but also through their journey within the organization. Imagine going to an organization and coming out fitter, stronger, and healthier.
And
happier and more productive. I mean, that's a side on it. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's exactly we share the same vision.
So, I mean, if you are someone who is struggling, feeling totally overwhelmed by stress, paralyzed by anxiety, completely lethargic, energyless, depressed, but you're still managing to drag yourself out of bed and getting to work every day, but barely, and having like very little resource left in your life for anything else, then this is the type of support that we are offering. And it's not a standard one size fits all, but it is important to know that you have the support like at your disposal 24/7. And so we do have an app that is able to support you to a large extent, without us needing to intervene, because it takes you on a journey itself. And we've really tried to put in every aspect of our knowledge as much as possible until we actually have to intervene on a more personal level. And like, this is about you also getting to know yourself better, knowing why this is happening to you, and that there is actually help and hope, and that there is intervention available. And because there is an app attached to it, it's help available 24/7 at your disposal. I don't know if you have any other insights attached to that, Joe.
Yeah, for me, it's getting people to know themselves first and foremost. It's educating them on what they've got, why it's happening, because if people understand why something is there, compliance is better. Like, why do I feel this way? Oh, that makes sense. What do I need to do? Well, that makes sense as in why I'm doing it. So my adrenals aren't firing. I need to rest to allow my body to recover. That's why I need to rest. There's a physiological response. How do we fix it? Certain different interventions. So that education is there, but then the tool on how you actually approach the rehabilitation of any sorts is there, together with the opportunity to contact a real practitioner, so that we're covering all bases.
And I think we need to start really moving away from, that mentality of, if you feel like you've dug deep already and you don't have anything left to give, like, dig deeper. It's abusive. Like, you're being mean to yourself, and like a slave driver, and you're not lazy and there's nothing wrong with you. You're just actually depleted. And like, you don't have to live that way. And there is a way to kind of recharge and replenish. I think the only struggle is that time takes time. But I mean, we are here as a team that really want to support and help you on a journey to change that. And hopefully we can make a difference in your life, and hopefully many other people's too.